show them the true nature of the Force.
This is Steve Hannley, and I'm with Kevin Dunsmore, and we're talking about Star Wars Battlefront. Now, the first question on everyone's mind, Kevin, is Lando Calrissian in Battlefront?
No, there are only 6 heroes and villains, and he did not make the cut.
Well, this game is not worth buying at this point, so we can just cut this now. We can just stop.
I mean, there are plenty of Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Princess Leia fans. So,
but he's the coolest character in Star Wars. There's little doubting that.
I beg to differ, but I'll let you think that.
Are there at least Wookiee? Do we have a Wookiee in the game? It doesn't have to be Chewbacca. But is there a Wookiee in the game?
There are no Wookiees, but their bowcaster is in the game.
Who?
Their bowcaster.
Is he a Wookiee?
No, it's a weapon.
Well, then who cares, Kevin?
Just saying that the Wookiee weapon is in the game.
Okay, so you did say Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. Do we have John Boyega's character? I don't know who he plays yet. I have not seen this movie.
No. This game is strictly about the original trilogy. The Clone Wars and the upcoming sequel trilogy are not in the game.
But there will be a DLC down the road at some point. I think it's called the Battle of Jakku.
Yes, the Battle of Jakku will be out December
Jakku.
1st. It will be out December 1st for those who pre-ordered the game, and then it will be released for everyone on December 8th.
So it's free.
It is free.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get into it. Battlefront originally came out for the Xbox many years ago, almost a decade ago, in fact. It was kind of a sleeper hit. It was a LucasArts game. It was one of those games where you think, okay...
I wouldn't call it a sleeper hit.
Well, I mean...
Before Battlefront 2 released, it was the best-selling Star Wars game of all time.
Definitely, but when the game came out, it came out in a sea of Star Wars games. There was a lot of Star Wars games coming out around then. So, of course, those in the know knew it was going to be a special experience, but the vast majority of people, I don't think it was a huge seller when it first came out. It kind of had legs throughout the first 2 years it was out. And then it cemented itself as quite the big series when Battlefront 2 came out, as you said. And after that, it was just kind of a legendary game. It was kind of synonymous when you think of a Star Wars game. You don't think of pod racers or any of the movie adaptations. You think of Battlefront. So it was kind of hard for gamers worldwide when EA, who published the second one, I believe, stopped.
They did not publish any of these games.
It was LucasArts at the time still.
LucasArts did it independently when they were still a big third-party publisher.
And EA has since acquired the rights?
Yes, EA and Disney worked out a 10-year deal where EA gets to make console-exclusive games. Now, Disney can make as many mobile games as they want, but EA exclusively can make console games.
Why do you think that Disney chose to do this? Disney, of course, has a pretty big development studio with Disney Interactive. Was it just that they didn't think they had the resources and the marketing to make Star Wars games of the AAA nature that they wanted?
Disney Interactive's only concern is Disney Infinity. They have shown no interest in developing console games recently. I think they went with EA because Activision has Call of Duty. EA sure has Battlefield, but they only do that every other year.
But Disney Infinity, it's proving to be a pretty Star Wars centric game now. Is that going to at all affect the people buying Battlefront when you can get now? I think there's 3 play sets in Disney Infinity that mirror the movies.
I don't think it's going to cause a problem. I think the people who are interested in both are going to get both. I think a younger demographic is going to go towards Infinity, and an older demographic is going to go towards Battlefront, and then it'll be interesting to sit on the sidelines and see where the rest go.
Now, it's of course been nearly a decade since the last Battlefront game graced us. The big question, of course, Kevin, is what exactly has changed in all these years? Is it the same Battlefront we've come to know and love? Is it a proper Battlefront 3, or is it a different beast entirely?
This is nothing like the previous two Battlefront games. Um, I like to compare it to Titanfall, Evolve, and Destiny, and The Order 1886, where it's an excellent proof of concept for a sequel, but as a standalone game, it doesn't quite hold up.
So it feels more like a Battlefield game.
No, it doesn't feel like a Battlefield game either.
So it's just its own beast then, out in the wild.
It feels like they were afraid of it being a Battlefield game, but they didn't want to go all the way with the Battlefront concept. They didn't want it to be a Battlefront 3.
So explain to me, because I think a lot of people are confused exactly how this game does work. So take me through, you put the disc in your console, or more realistically, you put the download on your console, or even you access it through EA Access. What exactly happens? How does the game start? What's the progression like? Just how does the whole shebang function?
Okay, so essentially this is a multiplayer-only game. There are 3 solo modes. You can play by yourself or with a friend via online or split-screen co-op. Those are pretty much negligible. One's a training simulator. The other is a set of battle missions. So it's you versus AI. And the other one is a survival mode. They're not that fun. The AI isn't that good. If you want to do the training, you can do that, but overall, those don't really matter. What really matters is the multiplayer. Now, basically, DICE has equipped this game with 9 different multiplayer modes. They range from excellent to boring, and they say there's 12 maps, but if you want to play the more popular modes, such as Supremacy or Walker Assault, you're looking at only 4 maps.
Wow, and are the maps as big as what we've seen in past Battlefront games, and especially in past Battlefield games?
I wouldn't say they're as big. I would say they're more vertical. The Endor map specifically, there's a lot of tree houses you can climb up to and shoot down at the enemies. It only goes to a maximum of 40 players. Some of the smaller modes are 20 players or 12 players or 16 players. So it doesn't go quite as high as Battlefield. It doesn't go quite as high as Battlefront 2 either. But for the way that the maps are designed, it works.
Now, almost every screenshot we see, and even the box art for that matter, features the Battle of Hoth. Is that kind of the centerpiece of the game?
I feel like actually on the box art it is actually not the Battle of Hoth on there. It is the map Solist. But Hoth is very featured. It was the most epic battle in the original trilogy. It makes sense that they want to highlight it. The map in the game is good. And for my taste, there's not enough cover, especially if you're playing as the rebels.
Does the map play out similarly to the movie? One of my favorite parts of the movie, at least, of that battle in particular, was the fact that you have all the rebels just waiting, and all of a sudden over the horizon you see the AT-AT start to march in. Do you kind of get that feel where there's this big distance between the rebel base and the Empire?
You do. There is a slight hill that the Empire climbs at the beginning of the Walker Assault match, and then the rebels spawn farther back, and then they kind of meet them halfway.
Okay. So, multiplayer is, of course, the main attraction to the game, and the question on probably everyone's mind after some failures in the past year especially is, how are the servers holding up so far? Of course, we're still pre-launch, the game is only on Xbox One, but have you noticed any major issues so far?
I actually haven't. This actually really surprises me, because DICE has had a really bad track record recently with Battlefield 3 and 4, but I do feel like this is their most stable launch. I'd like to give a big shout out to DICE LA, who have spent pretty much this past year kind of perfecting the Frostbite engine with the extra Battlefield content they made for the 4th game. So it runs much better than previous games.
Now, is there any sort of story to be found in the game?
No, there is no story whatsoever. There are slight cutscenes at the beginning of the survival missions and the training missions, but other than that, there's absolutely nothing.
Do you find that to be a problem at all, that there's really no campaign mode to speak of?
I don't think it's a problem. A lot of these types of games, people don't typically play the single player. I know a lot of people with Battlefield 3 and 4 skip those campaigns because they were terrible. But you have to make up that lack of content with extra content elsewhere, and I think that's where Battlefront falls flat.
Now, how realistic does the game feel overall? Does it feel like you're really in a Star Wars movie, or does it feel more like an action game with Star Wars skins?
This is where they get high marks, in that this does feel like a Star Wars game. They completely went for style over substance here, and it works to a certain degree. Everything looks like it was pulled straight from the films. They used a new texturing, model and texturing style that basically allowed them to scan in environments, weapons, and vehicles. And it looks really good. It sounds really good, except for the hero voice actors. So yeah, it's a great looking and feeling Star Wars game.
How does it compare to other current-gen games we're seeing? Is it near the top tier, or does it kind of feel like your standard third-party game that you're seeing lately?
In what sense? Are you talking about gameplay, content,
as far as
multiplayer?
visuals go.
Oh, visuals. This is probably one of, if not the best-looking games released to date. The Order 1886 is also up there. I'd have to go back and do side-by-side comparisons to really tell, but this is a really amazing-looking game.
Now, one thing I'm still a little bit confused about is the fact, do you always play as a known Star Wars hero, or are you sometimes just a part of the Rebel Alliance? Are there going to be like a bunch of Luke Skywalkers running around the map at any given time?
No, you are a cog in the machine. Now, there are battle pickups you can find that allow you to play as different heroes. On the Rebel side, you have Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and Han Solo. And on the Empire side, you have Darth Vader, Boba Fett, and Emperor Palpatine. Only one of each can be on the battlefield at a single time. But there are modes where all three can be on the battlefield at the same time.
Now, from what you're saying so far, your overall opinion of the game seems to be pretty positive. Is that true?
No. We've really only talked about the positive things.
We did not talk about too much, though, so that is, of course, a little bit worrisome.
Yes.
Why exactly should people be wary of or should I be wary of purchasing this game? Because it's a game I definitely want to play personally.
You should be wary because it's a $60 game, and honestly, there is not a lot of content. Like I said before, this feels a lot like Evolve, Titanfall, and Destiny, where it looks beautiful. It's a fantastic proof of concept for a sequel, but there just isn't enough. It just doesn't feel like there's enough content there to justify the price.
Now, is it a game maybe that down the road people should buy, like in 6 months?
Absolutely. What DICE and EA usually done in the past is they'll release a premium edition of Battlefield, which includes all of the released DLC plus the full game. They've already confirmed that there are going to be 16 new maps. It'll actually be interesting to see how many of those are actually for the big game modes. And there's going to be 4 new game modes and 4 new heroes and villains.
So at this point, do you see this game being a success? I think, of course, we can agree on that this game will, at least for its first few weeks, be a pretty big seller. Of course, with the new Star Wars movie coming out, it seems like people want Star Wars everything, and video games is probably going to be the main place people look. But ultimately, in, say, 3 months, 4 months down the line, is this going to fizzle out like Evolve did? For instance, Evolve came out just about 6 months ago, I think, at this point, and it's going to be a $15 Black Friday game. Will we see it go the way of Evolve or Titanfall, or will it become kind of its own ecosystem like League of Legends?
I'm not exactly sure, because something that this game has the Destiny factor, where it has a huge name publisher, it's got a huge name developer, and in this case it has a huge name franchise pushing it forward. Because you have to remember, when Destiny launched, it was very, very bare bones. Its first expansion, The Dark Below, added absolutely nothing to the game. And then House of Wolves kind of added more, and then this year we finally got what felt like should have launched a year ago. So it's kind of hard to tell. We're supposed to be getting some idea about what the expansions are going to have in it soon. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I can imagine it fizzling out, but I can also see it becoming like Destiny, where people keep going to it.
So Kevin, of course, as there doesn't seem to be a story and this is a limited game in scope, tell me about the gameplay. How does it all go down? Is it worth playing or not?
So basically, gameplay is a mishmash of first-person and third-person shooting. You get to decide which view you want to be in. With first-person, you get a teensy bit more accuracy when aiming down the sights. When you're in third person, you get a bigger view of your surroundings, so you can kind of see if enemies are approaching you. It doesn't, in the beta, it felt very lopsided to where third person users had the bigger advantage. I still think that's true here, though not as much. DICE seems to have tweaked the balancing a bit. So you have that. If you want to pilot any of the vehicles, you have to find them as battle pickups. You can't just run up to a vehicle and hop in it and start flying around. They're tied to battle pickups, which is very controversial, especially since the original Battlefronts did allow you to just approach a vehicle and enter it whenever you wanted.
Right. That was kind of the main focus of the game, really, or the main appeal.
Well, when you think about the Battlefront games, were essentially Battlefield games. They were trying to emulate the Battlefield experience in the Star Wars universe. That was a little bit more casual for almost any type of player to play. And that's where the confusion with this Battlefront game comes in, because DICE doesn't want it to be a carbon copy of Battlefield, yet that was the original concept.
Well, fair enough. Star Wars Battlefront is, of course, available now for PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. And to get Kevin's full thoughts on the game, which are quite interesting if I say so myself, you can head over right now to hardcoregamer.com and read that full review. Kevin, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.